Canto 12. The place we'd reached to clamber down that bank was Alpine Crag. No eye, considering what else was there, would not have flinched away. Compare an avalanche in Adagio, southwards of Trent, once struck the mountain flank, triggered perhaps by landslip or earthquake, and boulders from the summit shifted down in steps and stages to the valley floor, to offer those up there a downward route. Likewise the path we trod down this ravine. And on the angle where the incline broke, there lay stretched out the infamy of Crete, spawned in the womb of Persephone's fake heifer. And when he saw us there, he gnawed himself, as though flayed flat within by utter rage. My leader in his wisdom called towards him. "You may suppose that he's the Duke of Athens, who dealt you and the world above your death. You monster, move aside. This one's not come provided with instructions from your sister. He comes to see what you are suffering here." A stunned bull, stricken by its mortal blow, wrenches that instant free from the noose and rope. It cannot walk, but skips and hops about. The Minotaur I saw behaved like that. "Run!" shouted Virgil, watching it. "A gap. Better get down while still his fury bites." So down across the scree we picked our way. Beneath my feet the stones would often move, teetering beneath the strange new weight they now bore. I walked on, deep in thought. "Perhaps," he said, "you're thinking of this landslide, or that guard whose brutal anger I have just eclipsed. Once before, I'd like you now to know, I came down here and entered lower hell. These cliffs had yet to suffer any rockfall. But certainly, if I have got this right, there once came one who gathered up from Dis the stolen treasure of its highest place. Moments before, a tremor in every part disturbed these fetid depths. The universe must then, I think, have felt that love through which it often turns, so suppose, to chaos. At that same point, these age-old crags were rent and left both here and elsewhere as they are. But fix your eyes upon the valley floor. We are now nearing the river of blood. There simmer all those whose violence damaged others. What blind cupidity, what crazy rage impels us onward in our own little lives, then dunks us in the stew to all eternity. I saw there, as my guide had said I would, a ditch in great dimensions in an arc that stretched its wide embrace around the plain. And there, between the hill foot and those banks, were centaurs, running in a long-drawn line, armed, as they'd been on the earth to hunt, with arrows. On seeing us descend, they all reined in. 3 of that company then sallied forth, their barbs and bowstrings already well picked. And one still distant shouted out, "What pain have brought you to meet, and now making down that butter? Tell us from there, or else I draw my bow." My teacher in response then said, "To Chiron there, just beside you, we shall make reply. You are too headstrong, and you always were. That's Nessus there," he said, alerting me. "He died for the love of the lovely Daenerys, but then avenged himself with his own blood. The middle one," eyes fixed upon his chest, "is Chiron the Great. He nurtured Achilles. Pholeus, who lived so full of wrath, is the third. Around this ditch in thousands these all run, and loose their arrows at those souls that strain higher beyond the blood that guilt allows." We drew now closer to those swift-foot beasts. Then Chiron plucked a shaft, and with its notch combed his beard and tucked it in from his jaw. And once he'd made his noble mouth thus free, he said to his companions, "Have you seen the one behind? How all he touches moves. A normal dead man's feet would not do that." My trusted leader was now standing where, around the waist, the double nature weds. He answered thus, "He is indeed alive. To me it falls to show him this dark veil. Necessary, not pleasure, leads us on. Someone whose hymn is Illudion, paused in that song to hand me this new task. He is no robber, and I am no thievish soul. Now in the name of the true power by which I move each step along this tangled way, allot a guide to us from your own band to show us where the ford might be, and bear this man beside me on his crupper. He is no spirit walking through the air. Now Chiron turned to pivot to his right. Go back, he said to Nessus. Be their guide. Make any troop you stumble upon give way. The escort by our side, we now moved on along the shores of boiling vermilion, where souls well boiled give vent to high-pitched yells. Some, so I saw, were plunged there to the brow. And these, the mighty Centaur said, are tyrants. They lent their hands to violent gain and blood. So here, in tears for their unpitying sins, with Alexander there is vicious Dionysus, who brought on Sicily such grievous years. That forehead there, its coif as black as jet, as Azulian. At his side the blonde Ospin Deesta, who, and this is true, was done to death by his own bastard son. I turned towards the poet, who now said, Let him go first, and I'll be next to come. A little further on, the centaur stopped, arching over the people who emerged, it seemed, throwed high above the seething of that stream. There to one side he pointed out a shade. He stabbed, he said, in the bosom of God, the one whose heart drips blood still on the Thames. I now saw some with heads above the flood, and then others further on their torsos clear, and these in greater numbers I could recognize. Then gradually the blood race grew more shallow, so that by now it only stewed their toes. And there we found the crossing of the ditch. On this side, see, the boiling stream grows less, so correspondingly, the centaur said, I'd have you understand that over there the bed is pressed in process, point by point, still further down until it finds the place at which in pain great despots wring out moans. Justice divine on that side sharply stings the Hun Attila, scourge of all the earth, Pyrrhus and Sextus. There it also milks the tears eternally that boiling waves unlock, from Rena the Mad to Rena da Carneto, who wrought such strife upon the open roads. And then he turned and passed the ford once more.